My sister slapped me across the face in front of 300 people at her wedding because I refused to give her my penthouse. The music kept playing, but the room went silent. People gasped. Some laughed. I stood there holding a champagne flute that was trembling in my hand, not from fear, but from the kind of anger that comes after years of swallowing your pride for the sake of family. It all happened at the Ritz-Carlton, beneath golden chandeliers and floral centerpieces that probably cost more than my first car. My sister Sabrina, dressed in a $15,000 zero-cents Vera Wang gown, had just married a man she met 8 months ago, and instead of celebrating her new life, she was trying to steal mine. What she didn't know was someone very important was watching. And the move I made next, it didn't just stop them, it destroyed everything they thought they could take from me. I'm Lauren Harper, I'm 32, and I'm a lawyer, one of those who actually worked her way up the hard way. No family favors, no shortcuts. I studied through Christmases and birthdays, pulled back-to-back all-nighters through law school, and survived years of 70-hour work weeks in a Manhattan firm that chewed people up and spit them out. While my little sister Emily was off traveling, posting brunch pics, and maxing out credit cards my parents quietly paid off, I was in courtrooms and conference rooms fighting for a seat at the table. And 5 years ago, I finally had enough. Enough experience, enough wins, and enough guts to start my own practice. Business litigation. The hard stuff. It took everything I had, but it worked. Last year, after closing a massive settlement, I bought something I never thought I'd have: a penthouse overlooking Central Park. Floor-to-ceiling windows, polished marble, warm morning light. I'm not ashamed to say I cried the first night I slept there. It wasn't just a home. It was proof that I'd earned something real. But see, that's where the problem started, because in my family, success doesn't belong to the person who earned it. It belongs to whoever feels entitled to it. The day of Emily's wedding was like something out of a lifestyle magazine. We were at the Ritz-Carlton, all 200 guests in gowns and tuxedos, sipping champagne under gold chandeliers while a string quartet played in the background. Emily floated through the room in a $12,000 zero-cents Vera Wang dress, beaming at everyone like she was the Queen of Manhattan. She was marrying Nathan, some fast-talking finance guy she'd met less than a year ago. My gut told me he was trouble, but I didn't say a word. That's how our family works. We don't say the quiet parts out loud. We smile, drink, and wait for someone to snap. I stood near the back, watching the swirl of tulle and tuxedos, and something about the way Emily looked at me across the room made my stomach turn. It wasn't warmth or gratitude, it was hunger. That was the moment I knew she'd found out about the penthouse, and that something ugly was coming. I should have known something was off the moment Mom walked toward me. She had that smile, on the tight, glossy one she only used when she wanted something, like when she'd sweet-talked our aunt out of her diamond bracelet, or when she convinced my dad to refinance the house for Emily's travel year. Her silver hair was perfectly curled, not a strand out of place. Her navy blue dress looking like it belonged in a political fundraiser, not a wedding. "Lauren, darling," she said, stretching the word like warm caramel, "you look amazing." I barely got out a polite thank you before she added, "We need a quick family chat." Just hearing those words made my stomach twist. I glanced around. The waitstaff was still passing champagne, guests were laughing over shrimp cocktail, but suddenly, all of it felt like background noise. My dad, James, came over too. Broad shoulders, crisp tux, still looking like he ran boardrooms for a living, but his eyes, they had that familiar weight. The same look I remembered from when I brought home my first straight-A report card, and he said nothing. That same quiet disappointment. "We've been talking about your living situation," he started. I set my glass down without even thinking. Both hands were starting to sweat. "My what?" I asked, honestly unsure where this was going. "Your living situation," Mom echoed, now shifting into her syrupy, fake concern tone. "Emily and Nathan are starting a family, you know, and they'll need more space than that tiny apartment of his." I blinked. "They're not even pregnant yet." I was trying to keep my voice even, but a tremor slipped out. And then Emily showed up, right on cue, with Nathan's hand draped around her waist like she was starring in a Netflix wedding special. She looked flawless, of course she always did. Green eyes, long lashes, that smug tilt of her chin like the world owed her just for showing up. "We're planning to try soon," she said, her voice full of sugar and threat all at once. And then she said it, just like that, like she was asking to borrow a coat. "We want your penthouse." My heart actually stopped. For a second I thought I'd heard her wrong. But no, she meant it. "Excuse me?" I said, my voice sharper now. "We've been thinking." Dad jumped in, and already his tone had that let's be rational edge I knew too well. "You're single, Lauren. You don't really need that much space. A family needs room for the baby, for the future." I couldn't even process it fast enough. "You're saying I should give them my home?" Mom waved a hand like I was being silly. "Not give, dear. Trade. You could take Nathan's place. It's just lovely, very cozy for one person." That's when I felt it heat rising up my neck, the way it always did when someone tried to walk over me. "So, let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You want me to give up a 3-bedroom penthouse on the Upper West Side that I paid for because Emily might get pregnant one day, and I'm single?" Emily didn't flinch. She just crossed her arms and rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic. You don't even use the extra bedrooms. You don't have a boyfriend. What's the point?" That one landed like a slap, and she knew it would. Emily had always known how to twist the knife. She'd been praised for everything dropping out of college. They called it brave. Losing jobs? Just figuring herself out? Me graduating summa cum laude? Maybe you should loosen up, Lauren. Me pulling 70-hour weeks to become partner? You're going to burn out. It didn't matter how much I achieved, it was always too much, too cold, too ambitious. But now that I had something beautiful, something real, suddenly I was supposed to give it up in the name of family? "It's my home," I said, and I felt my voice rise, without meaning to. "I bought it. I earned every inch of it. I'm not handing it over like a gift bag at this wedding." Mom's expression hardened. She dropped the fake smile. "Lauren Elizabeth Harper," she snapped, using the full name like I was 12 again. "You're being selfish. Family comes first." I laughed a bitter, short laugh that caught in my throat. "Family?" I repeated. "When have you ever treated me like family? When I skipped Thanksgiving to study for the bar, you said I was antisocial. When I opened my firm, you told me I was being reckless. And when I finally made it, when I succeeded, you all acted like it was dumb luck. Don't talk to me about family." Dad stepped forward, his voice quieter now. "That's not fair," he said, but even he didn't sound convinced. Maybe it was fair. Maybe deep down they knew they'd never celebrated me, not once. They just waited until there was something they could take. I looked at Emily then, standing there with her diamond earrings and her perfect lipstick, watching me like a cat watches a trapped bird. She wanted my life, and they were ready to help her take it. Emily stepped closer, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, her cheeks flushed with fury and something else, pride. "You're jealous, Lauren," she hissed, close enough that I could smell the champagne on her breath. "You can't stand that I'm getting married, that I'll have the family you'll never have." I swallowed the sting that rose in my throat. She knew exactly where to strike. But I didn't back down. My voice stayed steady even as my heart raced. "I'm not jealous, Emily. I'm disappointed. Disappointed that you think entitlement is the same thing as love. I built a life from scratch. I've never once asked you for anything. Not time, not support, not money. And now you think I owe you everything?" Before she could fire back, Dad cut in, his voice like cold steel. "Emily needs that penthouse more than you do. It's time you learned what it means to put your family first." The words landed like a slap all their own. Put family first? Where was this family when I spent my 20s drowning in student debt, living off gas station coffee and frozen noodles just to stay afloat? Where were they when I launched my firm and worked until sunrise in a 1-bedroom office with no heat? Mom raised her voice, loud and sharp, the kind of voice she used when trying to shame someone into obedience. "Selfish children don't deserve success. You've had everything handed to you, and now you won't help your sister." I almost laughed. Laughed at the irony, the delusion, the gall. "Handed to me?" I repeated. "You think this was handed to me? I worked 3 jobs to afford law school. I skipped holidays, weekends, birthdays. I ate cheap takeout for 2 years straight while I built my practice from the ground up. I've never asked either of you for a single dime." My chest was rising and falling with every word now, and I could see people starting to notice. Heads turned, conversations paused. The music didn't stop, but it faded beneath the tension rippling through the ballroom like an earthquake about to hit. Dad stepped forward, red in the face. "Your sister's kids need a real home, not some cramped apartment." The lie hung there between us, fully inflated. Emily wasn't even pregnant, but they were already writing me off for the sake of her imaginary children. Then Emily leaned in close again, her voice low but sharp enough to cut bone. "I'm done pretending to care about you," she said. "I'm the better daughter, prettier, more likable. The one who makes Mom and Dad proud. I deserve everything you've got." I stared at her. I think in that moment something inside me just went quiet. A switch flipped, not in anger but in clarity. "What do you deserve, Emily?" I asked, calmly. Her eyes burned into mine as she said it. "Everything. The penthouse. The respect. The life you've been hoarding." I stood up straighter, looked her right in the eye, and replied with the words I didn't even know I'd been holding in for years. "Over my dead body." She didn't hesitate, not for a second. Her hand shot up and slapped me, hard, loud, unforgiving. The sound echoed like a gunshot through the ballroom. Everything stopped, the music, the chatter, the clinking of champagne glasses. 200 people just stood there, frozen, staring. For a few seconds there was only silence. Then it started soft at first, like nervous laughter, but it grew. I heard scattered giggles from Emily's friends in the corner, their perfectly manicured hands half covering their mouths. Then whispers snuck in, each one like a blade to the back. "Did you see that? About time someone put Lauren in her place. She's always acted better than the rest of us." My cheek burned. Not just from the slap, but from the heat of humiliation. But I didn't cry. I made myself breathe. In, out, in, out. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Emily stood tall, smirking like she'd just scored the winning point in some cruel game. "Maybe now you'll act like a real sister," she said, her voice so smug I almost laughed again. Behind her, Mom and Dad just stood there. No apology, no defense, not even a flicker of concern. They didn't flinch. They didn't move. They just looked at me, waiting for me to crumble, to give in, to say, "Fine, take it, you win." That's when something shifted in me, not in my head but in my gut. It hit me like cold water. This wasn't about a penthouse. It never was. This was about power, about putting me in my place, about reminding me that no matter how hard I worked or how far I climbed, I'd always be second in their eyes. I was the backup plan, the footnote, the one they tolerated until I became useful. But now I wasn't just useful, I was a threat. I'd outshone them, outgrown them, and they hated me for it. But what they didn't realize was they'd made a mistake, a big one, because they didn't just try to take my home, they tried to take my dignity, my pride, my worth. And they did it in front of 200 people. 200 witnesses, some of them my clients, some my colleagues, and one of them a judge who knew me, who respected me, who had just watched me get slapped like a criminal in the middle of a wedding. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I just reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and unlocked it with steady hands, even though my blood was rushing in my ears. I could feel every eye in that ballroom on me, people holding champagne flutes mid-air, some still grinning like they expected a second slap. But I didn't care anymore. I started typing. Quick, precise, like I was back in the courtroom drafting a closing argument. Mom's voice trembled as she stepped closer, that fake smile gone. "Lauren, what are you doing?" she asked, the worry creeping into her tone. I ignored her. I could feel the shift happening already, the hush falling over the room as guests realized I wasn't breaking down. Dad's voice cracked through the tension. "Put that away," he snapped. "You're embarrassing yourself." I didn't look up. "No," I said quietly but firmly, still typing. "I'm not the one who should be embarrassed." Emily's heels clicked toward me fast and sharp, and she lunged, trying to snatch the phone from my hand, but I stepped aside, finished typing, and hit send. The sound of my thumb tapping the screen was small, but in that moment, it was thunder. Emily's eyes narrowed. "What did you do?" she demanded. I looked up at her and then around the room, at the hundreds of people still frozen in shock. "I chose the kind of revenge that doesn't leave bruises, but leaves scars," I said, calm as ever. My phone buzzed. Then again. Then again. A flood of messages lit up the screen. Texts, group chats, email notifications. "What did you send?" Mom's voice was almost shrill now. I smiled. "This time, It wasn't forced. It was the kind of smile that comes when the truth is finally louder than the lies. I texted my entire network, my law firm colleagues, old classmates, clients, journalists, business partners, people who actually know me, who respect me. I told them what just happened, that my family cornered me at a wedding to demand I give up my home, that you called me selfish for saying no, that my sister slapped me in front of 200 people because I wouldn't sacrifice my life's work for her convenience. The room went still. Even the string quartet, bless their hearts, stopped mid-song. Silence pressed in from all sides. I also told them, I said, my voice steady, how the crowd laughed. How you all found it funny to watch a successful woman get humiliated by her own family. Dad's face turned red, not with embarrassment, but with fear. Delete that. Now. I met his eyes, unwavering. It's already gone viral. You know how this works. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The replies were rolling in, messages of support, disbelief, anger on my behalf. Emily's face turned ghost white. You vindictive, she started, but I held up my hand. No, I said. I'm not vindictive. I'm done being walked on. And then, finally, Nathan, sweet, clueless Nathan, spoke up. Lauren, he said, looking pale, maybe we can talk. We didn't mean for this to go so far. I looked at him, almost sorry for the mess he'd married into. You married the wrong family, Nathan. You have no idea what you've signed up for. He blinked, confused. What do you mean? I let out a breath. Judge Eleanor Brooks was here tonight. She saw everything. She's already texted me. She said Emily's behavior disgusted her. That slap, it wasn't drama, it was assault. Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. That name hit like a truck. Judge Brooks was a legend. And she didn't play games. Also, I added, David Carter from the Times was here. He's been trying to interview me for weeks. Now he's asking if I'd like to talk about the way successful women are treated by their own families. He saw everything. Mom looked like she might faint. Lauren, stop. You're ruining Emily's wedding. No, I said flatly. Emily ruined her own wedding when she slapped me. When she tried to steal from me. When you all stood by and watched it happen. My phone buzzed again. I glanced at it and a soft laugh escaped. I left the Ritz-Carlton with my head held high, walking away from the wreckage of Emily's wedding and the last thread I had with my so-called family. In the elevator down, I could still hear the faint chaos from upstairs. Muffled music, shocked whispers, but I felt calm. My phone buzzed non-stop with messages of support and disbelief. In the lobby, the night manager approached. Ms. Harper, is everything okay? I smiled, tired but composed. Just some family drama. He nodded, but the look in his eyes told me he knew it was more. By morning, the entire city would know too. Outside, the cold October air stung my cheek, a faint echo of Emily's slap. I stood for a moment, letting it all settle. The street lights along Central Park South flickered against the passing traffic, but I wasn't rushing anywhere. My phone rang. Sarah, my closest friend and a prosecutor, was the first to call. Lauren, is it true? Emily hit you? I exhaled. She did, and I stood there and took it, but not silently. I started walking. You okay? She asked. Better than okay, I said. I'm free. Free from pretending they're people I can count on. She was quiet for a second. This is going to get messy. I know, I said. But I'm not cleaning up their messes anymore. By the time I reached my building, I'd walked over 40 blocks. I needed the air. I needed the space. My phone kept buzzing, co-workers, old clients, even a few journalists. Patricia Grant, a senior partner from my old firm, messaged me. Heard what happened, I'm proud of you, call me if you need backup. I teared up, not because I was hurt, but because, after everything, the people who mattered had my back. My family had called me selfish, but the people I'd helped pro bono, the clients I'd fought for, they were the ones sending support. That said everything. Mike, my doorman, greeted me with concern. Miss Harper, everything okay? I smiled softly. I've had better nights, Mike, but things are looking up. In my penthouse, I poured a glass of wine and looked out over the city. My home, my peace. Someone had posted a video of the slap to Instagram, just 10 seconds of chaos. It had already gone viral. Comments flooded in, mostly defending me. Who hit someone at a wedding? This lawyer didn't flinch. Icon. Suddenly, I wasn't just a guest who got slapped, I was a symbol. Claire, my assistant, called. The voicemail's full. TMZ, Page 6, CNN, they're all asking for statements. I took a breath. Send this. Lauren Harper is grateful for the support. She's focused on her clients and won't comment further at this time. I wasn't sure if I'd take legal action, but I wasn't ruling it out. What Emily did wasn't just rude, it was assault. By morning, it was everywhere. Hashtags trended. Articles popped up about women being shamed for success. Therapists chimed in about toxic family systems. The video became a conversation starter across the country. Emily's wedding hashtag was now a digital scar. Even her mother-in-law uninvited her from Christmas. Nathan's firm opened an internal ethics review. My parents' country club membership was under review. No punches were thrown, but the fallout hit hard. A few days later, Judge Brooks called. Lauren, I was there. I saw it all. That wasn't just family tension. That was abuse, emotional, financial, and physical. You didn't deserve that. Her words stunned me. I'd focused so much on the slap, but she was right. It wasn't a one-time thing. It had been building for years. That night, Emily showed up at my building, still in her wedding dress, makeup smeared. She buzzed up, her voice cracking. Please, talk to me. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. For a second I wanted to let her up, but then I remembered her grin after the slap. I turned off the monitor and walked away. A week later, she called sobbing. I lost my job. Nathan's under investigation. Our honeymoon was canceled. Please help. I stayed quiet. Then I answered. You tried to humiliate me. You didn't expect consequences. Now you're living with them. She hung up. I never heard from her again. 6 months passed. Emily and Nathan divorced. My parents' business took a hit. But me? My firm grew. I became known as the lawyer who stood her ground. My penthouse stayed mine. One bedroom became a home office. Another became a guest room for friends who saw my value, not what they could take. And sometimes, when I think back to that night, I still hear the slap. I still hear the laughter. But I also hear silence, the kind that comes when people finally stop taking. And that silence, that's my peace. Sometimes the hardest thing you'll ever do is say no to the people who raised you. But that no might be the first real yes you've ever said to yourself. I spent years thinking family meant unconditional love, but what I learned is that love without respect isn't love at all. And the truth? You don't owe anyone your peace, your home, or your dignity, especially not the people who only show up when there's something to take. In the end, it wasn't the slap that defined me. It was the moment I refused to stay silent. If this story hit home for you, there's more where it came from. Watch the next video here, and don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. You never know who needs to hear this today.